This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Hey, Gary, how are you? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, Mark. What are we going to talk about? Has anything happened lately?
Well, why don't we start with? I mean, there's so many we can start with, but the one that kind of captured my interest today was the case in Idaho. Bryan Kohberger,
right?
You're familiar with it,
absolutely.
Okay. So there is the defense in that case has done a motion to have one of the survivors of that horrible incident at the house testify at the preliminary hearing. And Gary, you've got the article. At least it appears that this person is resisting the subpoena.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
I believe you did. That she is trying to avoid being able to testify. Bethany Funke, I hope that I'm pronouncing that right, is fighting the defense's attempt to compel her to testify.
And the argument by the defense is that she has what's called exculpatory evidence, meaning that she could help exculpate or prove his innocence. Now, you could say, well, is that a process type move? Well, to some degree, yes. Normally at a preliminary hearing, in order to put on an affirmative defense, you have to make an offer to the court. You got to tell the court, look, the reason I want this is it's going to negate one of the elements of probable cause for a preliminary hearing. To negate one of the elements is generally to exculpate and or negate. And so in this case, arguably, there is information that Bethany has, although not articulated specifically what it is, and that's why they want her to testify. Her lawyer, who has weighed in here on a motion to fight that, has made the argument that the court cannot compel this person, Bethany, to testify because it's a state prosecution. She lives out of state, and therefore there's no way to bring her in to this case. Did I get that correct, Gary?
Yeah, but is there no provision for the fact that she lived in the state at the time the crime was committed? That's a little surprising to me.
Clearly, under the interstate compact, this could be compelled. And people might remember, if you're old enough to remember OJ, if you're old enough to have done any kind of work, you can issue one of these. It's basically a writ ad, the technical Latin term, ad testificandum, and issue it to another state, get an interstate compact, get it enforced in that way. There's other provisions under the interstate compact to enforce it. I don't know that that's a winning fight. I think the stronger fight may be that there hasn't been a proffer sufficient to show that it would be exculpatory for purposes of a preliminary hearing. In California, for instance, they have a provision, I think it's 866 under the code, where you have to make a showing as well. That generally is done at the end of the preliminary hearing. I think because of the out-of-state issue, they're doing it in advance. Interesting, though, whether or not they want to disclose as a matter of strategy, whether the defense wants to disclose what it is they anticipate Bethany to say. I'm going to guess, and this is pure speculation, that there is something having to do with the timeline, and that she would provide something that would negate his ability to place him inside there during the time when the prosecution has kind of walled themselves into the crime.
Which makes sense, right? Because there was reported that she saw a figure in the house at some specific time. Is that correct? And then she went back in and barricaded herself and locked the door. And that was, the extent of her. But, her having, been on the record for saying that, it would make sense that they could raise some timeline issues or try.
Correct. So what does that do? What does the prosecution do? Well, the prosecution just, I believe today, the county attorney petitioned and the judge signed a order for the attorney general, the state prosecutor, to join this prosecution. And they're not, apparently, at least so far, not replacing the county, but adding people to the team. So it appears that they need additional resources, whether it's skill set or just manpower is unknown. But the argument to the judge, which the judge blessed, was that they need the additional resources, and they got it in the cavalry of the Attorney General's office today.
And then one other thing on this case that I saw earlier this week, and forgive me, I didn't read the details all that carefully, but I saw that there was a ruling from the state Supreme Court. There were news outlets, I believe, including Law and Crime Network, that were trying to get cameras into this hearing, and they were ruled unanimously against, right? So I believe it was 5-0 against. So what, if any, kind of reporting are we going to be able to get for this? Are there going to be people who can sit in there and just take notes and come and report based on that? Or, obviously we're not going to get any imagery.
One of the things that has taken place with great frequency as of late, especially in federal court for some of these federal trials, is that you will have reporters sitting in the courtroom who are live tweeting, so to speak. And then you can follow live tweets, and then they aggregate the tweets at the end of the day and do basically a day in the life of the trial. It's interesting to me that the court unanimously ruled that no more or no cameras in the courtroom, not necessarily no more. I think that some of these recent trials have soured some judges once again. This always happens. It seems to be an endless cycle that we're in. At first, they're always arguing on the side of transparency. And then when trial judges get mocked or the process becomes somewhat circus-like, then all of a sudden they want to shut it down, and then you get rulings like this where, no, we're not going to have cameras in the courtroom. Enough is enough. I would imagine that the Gwyneth Paltrow case, probably, the cynic in me would say, enough is enough. We're not going to expose the system here anymore. That was in the last 90 days, and obviously judges have a memory. So that's the cynic in me who says that soured anybody from having a live gavel coverage of this.
Right, and that's also right on the heels of Murdoch, which was highly publicized and lasted several weeks as well. So, the two of those coming up back to back and sort of taking over the news coverage, it would make sense to me that they're trying to maybe swing things back the other way a little bit.
Well, the Murdoch case was interesting because the judge got rave reviews. The lawyers, at least the prosecution in real time, not so much, although they've been lionized after the verdict, which is, shows you winners get to write history. The Paltrow case, the judge didn't take as much incoming flack, but the lawyers were savage all the way along, as you know from Gina and Bryan's show.
Oh, yeah.
And we may have weighed in on occasion.
Maybe.
And so there's a closing of ranks, and I think that's one of the reasons that you see 5-0 unanimous. We don't need any more attention here in that state on cases that are being tried there.
Well, Mark, I don't want to keep you for too long, but I think that we had some pretty big news yesterday that we would be remiss to ignore. So what are your top of mind thoughts on the respective exits from top anchors, I would say, at two of the diametrically opposed news outlets that are on cable news? One of
the headlines I saw I thought was clever, and it was a Fox nips Tuck and CNN squeezes lemon. So I thought
that's pretty good. I didn't see that one. I like that.
Whoever was the headline writer, give him a hat tip and kudos. And we may have some more inside information at the end of the week on the big show.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's a tease for the audience as well as for me. So I look forward to it.
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about a jewelry line that I have developed such a fondness for. And I mean it. I got so much of their stuff in Maui because they had stuff that was exclusive to Maui, and I was introduced to it. And nice. I love it. It's this amazing brand, Alex and Ani. And they say that, quite rightly so, there are moments in life that transform you, that shape you, who you are, who you want to be. There are people who inspire you and those who motivate you to go further than you ever dreamed possible. And sometimes A place or a point in time comes to define the very essence of who you are. And for these memories, there is Alex and Ani. They create meaningful jewelry that honors your spirit, tells your story. Discover pieces meant just for you at alexandani.com. And they have a Mother's Day collection, which I am absolutely going to get for my mom. Honors the unstoppable force and strength of a mother's love.
For your mom, what about you? You deserve a Mother's Day present. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, include yourself in that.
Holy shit. That's right. Thank you. Motherhood, undeniably a full-time job. And through the endless days and sleepless nights, moms transform into superheroes guided by the deepest and purest strength of all, love. This Mother's Day, Alex and Ani celebrates super moms in your life with pieces that honor her strength and resilience and devotion. And you should just go ahead and go on over to alexandani.com, find all their beautiful pieces. I was introduced to this company on our super producer Gary's wedding day.
What better time? That's weird that Gary would ask you to marry him on his wedding day, but here we are.
Our buddy, our friend, who's obviously affiliated with this show in Los Angeles Magazine, Mark Garrigus, who we've all known for a million years, goes, "Oh my God, I have something for you. Stay here." And I thought, oh God, it's a subpoena. Oh God, I'm being served.
You've been served.
Thank God he came back with this beautiful necklace. And I when I say beautiful, I ain't just whistling Dixie.
I remember this very well. Number one, you were showing it off. And number two,
yes.
I was very jealous.
Yeah, it was beautiful. He always called me Wonder Woman because in our previous show, how many years have I been the only female in the building? So he always called me Wonder Woman. And
not just that, you are a wonderful woman and you do slightly resemble Gal Gadot. And that's a very, it's a nice feather in your cap.
Brian.
This is getting better and better.
Fuck, this is great.
Gary, are you recording this?
He wants this on record in case I ever accuse him of being mean to me. So yeah, he got me this beautiful, like encrusted Wonder Woman pendant necklace from Alex and Ani. I never took it off, and I, as you know, never stopped talking about it. Then when my husband and I went to Maui, we stopped into the Alex and Ani store, and they had all these little beautiful bracelets with like little hula girls on them, and we got them for all of our moms. And it was just because we had two moms on Andy's side, a biological mom, stepmom, my mom, and everybody got these beautiful hula girl bracelets exclusively from Alex and Ani. So anyway, I love this. I love this line, and I hope you guys check them out.
Can we, before we wrap it up, can we spell Ani? It's A-N-I, because just in case you're not sure from the read how it's spelled.
Yes, Alex, A-L-E-X, and Ani, A-N-I. Thank you so much for saying that.
Anything else you want to cover before we let you go?
That's it. We're going to be looking at the if it takes off this week, and it looks like it will, Jean Carroll versus Trump we'll be looking at. There's some Supreme Court action that we will be looking at, and also some of the news out of Georgia we'll be looking at.
Absolutely. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. See you, Gary.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.